Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com. Today we're going to make thumbprint cookies, and this is what they look like. This is a buttery, enriched shortbread that we're going to roll in some chopped nuts, and then we're going to fill the centers with your favorite jam. So the first thing that you will need to do is to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees Celsius, and then you will need a baking sheet and line it. I've lined mine with parchment paper, but you could just butter it or even lightly spray it with one of those non-stick sprays. So if you have a stand mixer, then use your paddle attachment, but you can also just use a hand mixer for this, or really you could just use a bowl with a wooden spoon to mix this batter. Shortbread, enriched shortbread batters are, pretty easy to make, so you can make it by hand. First thing you will need is a half a cup, 113 grams of butter. I'm using unsalted butter because I like the flavor, but I also like to control the amount of salt in my recipe. But if you have a favorite salted butter, then go ahead, use that. So now what I'm going to do is just beat this on low speed just until it's nice and smooth. Okay, and next I'm going to add 1/4 cup, 50 grams of granulated white sugar. And I'm going to also add 1/2 teaspoon, 2 grams of pure vanilla extract. That's just for flavoring, so if you prefer your cookie not to have a vanilla flavor, you can just leave that out. And then I'm just going to scrape, as always, scrape down the sides and the bottom of your bowl as you need to make sure everything gets mixed together. And then I'm just going to beat this on medium-low speed just until everything gets mixed together. Okay. And next we're going to add 1 large egg yolk. And have your egg yolk at room temperature. 1 large egg yolk is about 20 grams. Just put that in there. And I'm just going to beat that in. Okay, let's scrape. As you can see, this is an easy batter to make. We don't really want to, when you're doing any type of shortbread dough like this, you don't really want to beat a lot of air into your batter. So, it's easy to make it by hand as well. So in a separate bowl, I have 1 cup, which is 130 grams of all-purpose flour. You may know that as plain flour. And to that, I'm adding just 1/4 teaspoon, 1 gram of salt. If you used salted butter, then I would just leave out that salt. I'm just going to whisk this. Now, just as a side note, this recipe makes about 20 of these cookies. So if you're doing, this is a popular Christmas cookie. If you want to make more, then you can just double the recipe. I mean, it's really easy to do that. So I'm just going to add the flour, and I'm going to beat this on low speed because you don't want that flour coming up your face, just until everything's mixed together. Okay, and we're done. Now at this point, if your batter is really soft, then you might want to chill it until it's firm. Just cover it and put it in the fridge for, maybe 1/2 hour, an hour. But mine is okay, so I'm just going to make my cookies right now. Mix that flour in. Okay, so now we're going to roll our batter into 1 inch, 2.5 centimeter round balls. If you have a scale, you will need to weigh out 15 grams for each cookie. So as always, a scale is really good thing to have. Makes things easier. So measure out 15 grams, and then we're just going to roll them into a round ball. Hey, that's my last one. So I have 19 cookies with this amount of batter. So like I said, you can easily, if you need more, just double the recipe, which means you just double every ingredient. So there we go. Now the next step is you will need on a plate about 3/4 of a cup, 75 grams of finely chopped nuts. Now my favorite, it's what I always use, is walnuts. And I do like to toast them first. So just put them in your 350 degree Fahrenheit, 180 degrees Celsius oven. Just take your walnuts, put them on a baking sheet, bake them for maybe 8 minutes. I can always tell any nut is been baked enough when you can start to smell it. That's really the way to go to tell. And then take them out, let them cool, and then finally chop them. You can do that on a cutting board with a knife, or a lot of times I put them in the food processor and just process them. Now besides, if you don't want to use walnuts, you could use pecans. That's a really good substitute. Hazelnuts would be nice, or even almonds. Or you could kind of do a mixture of you know, some in the walnuts, some in the pecans. So anyway, so once you've done that, then you will need in a bowl 1 large egg white, which is about 30 grams. Have your egg white at room temperature. So really you're starting with 1 large egg at the beginning and separating it. And then we're using both parts. So we're just going to mix this up, because we're going to roll our cookie balls first in the egg white and then in the nuts. So what the egg white does is it acts like a glue, so the nuts will stick to the cookie balls. Okay, so there we go. Put that. I'll move this out of the way. So kind of a production line here. Just roll it, cover it, and then just roll it in your chopped nuts. Like so. And then we're going to put them on our baking sheet. You know, space them a couple inches apart, 5 centimeters. Okay, my last one. Okay. There we go. So now, hands are all messy there. What we need to do, because we're filling the centers with some jam, so we need to make a hole in the center. I'm using just the wooden spoon, the end of it. You could actually thumbprint. The reason it's called that is because you can just use your thumb and press it down. But I prefer, less messy, to use the end of a wooden spoon. So what I do is just take and just press. And don't press all the way down to the bottom of the cookie, almost to the bottom. And like that. And do all the same. Okay, so our last one. Oh, it's getting a little sticky. Okay, there we go. So now what we're going to do, sorry, my hands, is fill the centers there, that indentation, with a little bit of jam, probably like half a teaspoon, just a little bit. Now, you can use any jam, any flavor you like. My personal favorite is raspberry jam. With the walnuts and the raspberry jam. And the other thing I like why raspberry is because it's sweet, but it's tart. And this is quite a rich cookie, So I find that the raspberry jam really offsets the richness of the cookie. Now, I'm actually using homemade, or like a homemade refrigerator raspberry jam. So you could go to the Joy Baking website or our YouTube channel, and I do have a recipe along with the video showing you how to do that. So if you want to do that or make it easy on yourself, you can just go and buy your favorite brand of jam. And to fill the indentation, I often just put the jam in a piping bag and just pipe it in. If you're not comfortable doing that, some people don't like to use a piping bag, then I've just got these little tiny spoons, and then just to the top, because it does kind of, you know, bubble up a little as it's baking. And my last one. Okay, I think they look cute even before they're baked, so I'll just put that in there. So now, first, everyone's oven is a little different, so take, you know, the baking time is, for my oven, about 12 minutes. So, you know, yours may take a little less or a little more, but what we're looking for is the nuts will brown a little more, and the cookie will be just set around the bottom when you feel it. Still be a little soft if you really squeeze it, but around the bottom it'll be start to brown and it'll be set. So I'm going to say about 12 minutes. You know, always check a couple minutes before that, just in case your oven is running a little hot. And I do like to rotate your baking sheet front to back about halfway through, and that'll give you more even baking. Okay, so our Thumbprint cookies are done. Put your baking sheet on a wire rack and let them cool like for a few minutes, and then you can use your spatula to take them off of the baking sheet to finish cooling. So as you can see, the nuts have browned a little more, and you can see the jam is going to set, and if I feel it around the bottom, it's set. So they're done. So I'm going to let them cool down a bit to room temperature, and then when we come back, we will try one. Okay, our cookies have now cooled to room temperature. So I think it's a really pretty cookie with that bright red jam and the nuts. Still a little warm. It's really good. You have the shortbread, enriched shortbread. You know, it's buttery, not too sweet, but a little sweetness to it. And then add that, the crunch of the walnuts and the flavor of those, and then the raspberry jam, just, I think, just sets it off perfectly. Like I said, you could change up. I mean, I use walnuts, like I said, pecans, hazelnuts, almonds you could use. And then you could match the jam with, you know, whatever you like. But like I said, try to use a jam that has a little bit of tartness to it. I think that's the best with this type of cookie. So they will last several days at room temperature, a little longer if you, probably at least a week if you store them in the refrigerator, or you can even freeze them. So it's a good, I mean, this is like a perfect Christmas cookie. So you could make them and freeze them ahead of time. So try this one. And until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.